far more nifty with his feet and his hips than people will give him credit for. I'm not saying he's Shakira, but his hips can move.
He had all those advantages. Witherspoon,
or one out the bunker.
Is a very similar.
It could even be a drive.
We got the Ryder Cup on, that's not muted, and it's just suddenly come up.
So if you're not getting the ball to him at the very start of the route, then he's quick.
Missed your window, haven't you?
You missed your window.
I think none of us have managed to forget the image of him not only knocking the defender back, but also up in the air. So this is a very hypothetical question, so bear with me.
Okay.
And don't ask me how this scenario comes about, but for argument's sake, it is happening, okay? So you somehow get frozen, right? You've been frozen alive, right? Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the We Talk Seahawks Rookie Watch podcast. Today we're coming off the back of a win again over the Carolina Panthers. This time another game in which our rookies have excelled expectation and have thrilled us no end. We've got a few different ones to talk about this week. Anthony Bradford will be getting a bit of attention this week. He's been sorely neglected, but he hasn't really had substantial snaps. We'll be talking about him today. We've also got more snaps to talk about with Charbonnet, our bruising running back, bursting onto the scene this week. And of course, we've got JSN to discuss and Witherspoon as well. So tonight joining me, we've got James. How are you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm really good. 2-1 feels very good. Our rookies are playing well for the most part. Everything's good in the world of the Seahawks at the minute. So hopefully it continues this week. Monday Night Football, Giants. Some interesting performances coming out the back of the Panthers game, heading into the Giants game that we'll be talking about tonight. So no, I'm really good, mate.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think that Giants game's looking really, really interesting because we've got so much returning talent that's been injured, especially with our second-year players, with Reek and with Charles Cross coming back as well. And also there's the implications of Charles Cross returning, meaning potentially less tight end sets, meaning more JSN. I think there's a lot to talk about there as well. We'll open up by very quickly talking about injuries and returning players ahead of that game. As far as I'm aware, we haven't picked up any more rookie injuries, which gives us a chance to get healthier. Obviously, that bye on the horizon as well. So I think we're all touching wood that we don't pick up any fresh ones before the bye, and we can come back. Indeed, touch wood. We can, hopefully come back a bit fitter. In terms of returning players, I don't think Trey Brown is likely to feature because that was a concussion. It's confirmed as a concussion, so you'd assume concussion protocol is going to mean he's not going to feature. And we've also got confirmation that, last week we mentioned Kenny McIntosh. He definitely did hit in the injured reserve, but he is scheduled back off that after the Giants game as well. So that's a returning player there. But otherwise, no injuries. How are you feeling about our roster and things injury-wise now and our rookies?
Yeah, it feels like other than Mike Morris, who is the only one that, like we said last week, is terminal at this point. It feels like we're starting to get healthier again after the early setbacks of Cross and Abraham. And then the next day, once we get Kenny Mack back as well, you've got another weapon there that will see what we've got. But no, it's a big factor if we're going to get Cross back this week. Obviously, the Giants front seven is a good one. They've got some good pass rushers there, and I wasn't overly impressed with Storm Forsyth, if I'm being honest, in the Panthers game as much as I was in the Lions game. I thought he sort of dipped a little bit, whereas Curhan kind of maintained that level. I thought Forsyth took a step backwards a little bit for me. So I think it's really important that Charles Cross, if he is fit, and I stress that. Only bring him back if he's 100%. Don't bring him back if he's 70, 80%. Just wait it out. Wait for the bye. We can get him back for the big Bengals game 100%. But if he's 100% go, then let's get him back out on the field. But no injuries wise, positive. Feels like we're getting there again with him now.
Yeah, good. And I think it's kind of interesting on the subject of injuries. Prior to the season opener, a lot of people were saying Devon Witherspoon is going to spend the whole season clutching that hamstring, and we're going to be on, tenterhooks the whole time. Is he going to be injured? Is he not? He's actually weirdly appear to be the fittest and most consistent quarterback we have now, which is bizarre because this is a guy who held out at the beginning of camp. As soon as he got into camp, injured with his hamstring, so he didn't build up that bank of fitness that the rest of the guys did. Come game time, made out of granite.
I don't know what he's made out of it, but I want to know. I want to know for future reference, because that lad is, he's pretty special, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I agree. But that's the injury stuff regarding our rookies going into the Giants game. So we'll flip it back to the Panthers game. Your choice, who we talk about first? Do you want to talk about JSM first, or do you want to carry on with Witherspoon? Which is your choice?
We're on Witherspoon, so we'll start with Witherspoon.
Okay.
Like we said in the main pod, if you haven't listened to that, please go and listen to the main pod as well. But if anyone is still hung up on the flea flicker and all that kind of stuff, I don't really know what to say to you other than just come on, get on board. This kid is pretty special. Like we were saying, he's one of the most targeted cornerbacks at this moment in time through his first 2 starts in the NFL. As teams try and sort of figure out, can we go him? Can we target him? Can we trust that he's a rookie and will he make mistakes? And teams are pretty quickly finding out that this isn't your typical rookie. He was picked at number 5 for a reason, and you can't just throw his way and expect to gain big yards every time and for him not to be able to cover. The lad can cover. He is the definition of cover. If you find it in the dictionary, Witherspoon's name will pop up next to it, or the thesaurus, whichever one it is. You can tell I went to school. Yeah, he's excellent. I love his closing speed. I love his IQ, his energy. I mean, I could wax lyrical for hours about Devon Witherspoon in terms of every adjective that you could use to describe Devon Witherspoon and how he plays. It's applicable because he's just excellent. And like you say, he's made one mistake in his first 2 weeks, and really for me that is it. He's made that one mistake, and it wasn't just him who made that mistake. Diggs made the mistake. Other players in the secondary, experienced players, bought that mistake as well. It just so happened to be Devon Witherspoon's assignment, yeah. But other people on that play made the same mistake that he did. But I've just loved his reaction to it. He hasn't lingered in his head. Bounced straight back in that Lions game. He bounced straight back, and then in the Panthers game, he followed that on. And Thielen, all the receivers didn't really get a sniff out of him. And Thielen, although he's aging, is still a very savvy, good route runner. Always been a good receiver at the NFL level. And he got completely locked up, and I can't wait for this week when we get Tariq and Devon Witherspoon back, because that is getting my juices flowing, Mitch.
I couldn't agree more. I think the whole Reek on one side and Witherspoon thing on the other is fascinating, because they've both been tested with fire in their opening weeks. You look back to last year and people were testing Reek, and they found out very quick that he is not a man to loft the ball up there, and watch your receivers compete with, because he's got longer arms than you. He's got, he's faster than you. He had all those advantages.
Or one out the bunker.
Is a very similar.
Could even be a drive.
We got the Ryder Cup on the top muted, and it's just suddenly come up full volume.
Thought Liam Neeson had come in, and I thought we were going to take a 3 or something then. Jesus Christ.
No, literally, it was just the Ryder Cup muted on the top. just went suddenly blasted full volume. And we'll see the same with Witherspoon. I mean, it wasn't just a case of him doing well when the ball went his way. They literally targeted him for 2 weeks. You look at the amount of tackles he had more tackles than the linebackers. So the ball was going that direction, whether it was run plays or whether it was through the air. They literally were testing him, and we've seen that 2 weeks in a row, and his box score has looked superb because of it. So long may that continue. And like you say, with Reek back, there really isn't a side of the field that I would like to throw a ball into. I'd start probably throwing the ball in the middle, but guess what? Jamal Adams is going to be prowling in there this week. So good luck.
Good luck is a very kind way of putting it.
Yeah, good luck. I really want to see how that ends up looking. So On a different subject, we'll switch it over quickly now to JSN, and I've had my identity crisis essay outburst in our main pod, so you can go ahead and listen to that if you're interested in my mad ramblings. But the part of it that was relevant to JSN, for anyone who hasn't listened to that, was that I don't believe that when Gino's moving through his progressions, I don't believe he's seeing the potential for a quick, sharp, short completion to JSN and allowing him on early downs to receive a 3-yard, 4-yard catch and get a bit of yards after catch. I think if we started implementing that, first down run play 3-4 yards maybe, second play JSN 3 or 4, 5, maybe there's some upside there with him breaking free and with his field vision and things as well. I don't believe that's happening at the moment. I don't think we're using him quite as well as we could. And his time on the field has been limited because of our 12 and 13 personnel with extra tight ends to shore up the edges. So with Cross back this week for the Giants, James, potentially less tight end sets, more snaps for JSN. Could you see that being a really good opportunity for JSN to establish his skill set?
Yeah, it feels like this is his first big opportunity this week. If Cross is back, aside from like the first week before Cross went down, it feels like this is his first big opportunity. Like how we've kind of sort of said there that the last 2 weeks with the tight end sets, heavy tight end sets, it hasn't really felt like any real chance for JSN to really show what he can do in the offense. Whereas now, once the tackles come back again, once you get Charles Cross sort of back again, it feels like almost like you can unlock JSN again and right, put him out the field there most of the offensive snaps this time and really see if he can get the ball. And you make a good point in terms of his route running and getting the ball to JSN early. When I look at the other receivers that we've got, DK kills you later in the route because of his physicality. Tyler Lockett kills you later in the route most of the time because of his ability to get open when players break down. Whereas JSN, you have to get him the ball effectively instantly because he kills you right at the start of his route. That's where he kills you because of his separation skills off his breaks and off the line of scrimmage. So if you're not getting the ball to him at the very start of the route, then he's
You've
quick.
missed your window, haven't you?
You missed your window. He's quick, but he's not DK Metcalf quick, in my opinion, and he's not. He's maybe Tyler Lockett quick, but he's in that kind of range. He's quick, but he's not a track kind of quick speed where DK has got that speed. So you need to get JSN the ball straight away. That like he has to be your first read in most respects, because if he's your third read by that point, the separation's already happened and it's a little bit too late in the play now. You get JSN. If you watch any of his Ohio State tape, any of those, I know you have, Mitch, of course, but any of our listeners or anything like that, if you go back and watch some of his Ohio State tape, he gets the ball straight away all the time. So he's coming out of his breaks in stride, ball in his hands, and he takes off because that's where he gets that separation and where he kills DBs. So I hope we start seeing that from Gino, that he goes to him straight away, becomes his first read a bit more, and then I think you'll see JSN explode. I really do.
Yeah, the thing is, I say he needs to be the first read. If you're thinking that Tyler or DK, they're going to make a move and they're going to make a break and you're going to get 25, 30 yards. If your mindset is constantly, I don't want to throw this early because something better could happen, that also then becomes quite predictable. And you're also providing a lot of time for people to rush the passer. I kind of think that during this period of time where the pocket has been a bit damaged by the depth chart being a bit ravaged by injury, there was probably quite a lot to be said for Gino. Get the ball out of your hands early, try and hit JSN early, let him snap off 5-6 yards early downs, make your life easier on second and third, and then Kenny will do his bit, and you're probably going to be looking, if we're there on third down, it's going to be third and not much. There could have been a bit to say for run the ball a lot, make the shallow passes on crossing routes and get the ball to JSN early. There's probably quite a lot of value in that. But we didn't see it. They took a different approach of shoring up the line with tight ends. And to be honest with you, I mean, we said this before the pod, the usage of the tight ends in week 2 and 3 has been as good as any tight end usage I've ever seen as a Seahawks fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's been consistent. They've been good plays. The ball's gone throughout. Before Disley missed a game, he was receiving the ball as well. It was spread around brilliantly, and they were They were a real handful. So I can't say that what we got was bad. But when we're talking about JSN, we can all see where the opportunities are likely to come from, unless we see an injury to one of our wide receivers, in which case I feel extremely confident that JSN is going to do a very good job covering either of our two wide receivers, wide receiver 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a negative space with JSN in terms of his performance. I'm in a slightly a little bit annoyed that we've not given him the chance to kind of arrive on the scene and make a big splashy, have a big splashy game early doors. I think that could have been better. But I'm not down on JSN at all. So here's one that people wouldn't necessarily have seen coming today. We're going to talk a little bit about Anthony Bradford. There's been a few people putting out articles on Anthony Bradford this week. I came into this pod talking about it with James before we went live, and he also had seen an article as well praising Anthony Bradford. So we'd seen different sources, but we come to the same conclusion that Anthony Bradford had quite quietly gone about his game really well on Sunday night. And the PFF grade came through with a 76.6. If I played 75 snaps on debut and came out with a grade that high, I'd be very pleased.
Yep.
And the other thing we said, James, didn't hear his name called once. Not for a yellow flag. No false starts, no holding, none of that rubbish. He was clean, consistent. And what have you seen from articles that you've watched? What have you liked about Bradford from what you've seen?
Yeah, like we said on this pod, coming out of college, he was being touted for his run blocking abilities, and when you go back and watch some of the film from the Panthers game, like I showed you the one tonight from the Football Scout on YouTube, it's about a 9-minute long video. Highly recommend it, and it really focuses in on Bradford's game. You'll be able to see it for yourself. He's a powerful guy. He fights for every single inch and sort of opportunity on every single rep to block and to help the offense out. He doesn't just focus on his sort of assignment and then, oh, well, I've done my job, so it's okay. He does his job and then he goes, right, how can I help my next guy do his job? How can I help? And it just looks really, really good team player, high IQ, understanding that it's not just all about him and it's about the rest of the guys as well. So if I've got my guy locked up and I see Curhan or I see Evan Brown struggling with his guy, if I'm freed up to go and help him, I'll go and help him and I'll double team that guy. And you could really see it paying off for the guys like Charbonnet and Ken Walker on their runs and helping Gino get that extra second or two to get rid of the football. Not perfect. There was still bits where you say, oh yeah, there's a bit of a rookie, error. Could he have stayed with his guy a little bit more before moving on to the next guy? But for a rookie debut performance, starting wise anyway, coming in and playing the game, I thought he looked excellent for where we got him in the draft as a day 3 pick. Just a high ceiling kind of player that you can mold into a really, really nice guard for the future. And a guy who maybe looks like is coming in to take Phil Haynes' spot at some point, maybe this season, maybe it's at the end of the season. But no, I really liked what I saw. And like you say, that the main thing is with these offensive line guys, especially when they're rookies, do you hear their name called during the game? Are they getting flags? Are they getting false start penalties? Are they getting holding penalties? Are they being skittish? Are they being nervous? Didn't hear Bradford's name once. Not once. And like I said to you, when I cast my mind back to Jermaine Ifedi, when we drafted Jermaine Ifedi, he was Mr. Flag, because every single game he got 1 or 2 flags, skittish, nervous, holding, false starts. And I'm not seeing any of that from Bradford. Like we didn't see much from Cross, like we didn't see much from Abraham Lucas. It looks like we've got a really nice core of young, sort of confident, just really high IQ, cerebral offensive line players that they've done a really nice job of finding and picking up.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice that you. A lot of the things there I really agree with, and the main one for me, when I look at what he did on the film and when I look at his grading, he seems to understand the roles of the people around him well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the centre next to him, he understands the job. The tight end or the tackle next to him, whatever we're doing, you know, whether we're flooding one side, whether he's trying to double team someone, whether he's trying to just create a gap, and you know, whether it's run blocking schemes for for Charbonnet or Ken to squeeze through a gap, you know, whatever it is that's happening, he's helping other people as well as doing his own job. Sometimes you see him with one hand on his guy. He's beaten the initial move, dodging swipes and things masterfully for a first-year player, and counter-moving pass rushers and good defensive tackles as well, whilst also chipping a guy, pushing a nose tackle off balance. There was a play which is highlighted in the video we watched together, James, where he'd not only held his man or beaten his man, he'd knocked the nose tackle into the defensive end on the other side, just chipping in by the way. You know, he reached over and helped out the centre and stacked two guys. You know, and it's you'd forgive a guy on his debut, his first meaningful snaps, to just be doing his own job as well as possible, and maybe have the coaches come over to him at the end and tell him, you know, good job on your assignment, but you could have done this better or helped this person, or what we're really doing on that play is trying to make sure that this gap matures. It's not necessarily about your gap, you know, your player. It's about positioning yourself to shield that gap. So that, you know, there are intricacies that you'd expect him to be having addressed at the end of the game. He actually nailed those finer details whilst doing his job in his first game. That for me has shown we've got far more depth on the interior of that offensive line than I anticipated this early in the season, and it's also made me think that the ceiling for how good he can be is a fair bit higher than I originally thought this season. And he is a guy that I watched in college as well, so that probably speaks to how quickly he's absorbed the coaching that he's had this off-season. And also potentially how receptible he is to the wisdom around him. Maybe he's absorbing quite a lot from the more experienced heads on the offensive line as well. So he looks a really coachable first team or starter ceiling kind of guy now, which is a very welcome boost.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah. Well, that's that one, and the final one I think we're going to talk about tonight is Charbonnet, because anyone who watches Good Morning Football will have seen him being awarded the scepter for the angry run of the week. I think none of us have managed to forget the image of him not only knocking the defender back, but also up in the air, which you don't often see. He literally made that guy get some air. What was your reaction like when you were watching that live, James? What did you make of that?
I think Ryanair took him on as cabin crew because he's still flying. I honestly, that poor guy. I mean, he has a family. That's on record. That is on film for everyone to see forever, and I love it. I'm absolutely over the moon because Charbonnet, I've just been waiting for him to break off something, waiting for him to show what he can do. And my God, is he a powerful runner? He doesn't just run past you; he runs straight through you. He doesn't really care who you are. He's a proper battering ram, but he's shifty as well. And I'm glad that showed up on tape, because some people might be getting the misconception that he can't move, he can't make people miss. He's just a pure sort of your old school, just battering ram running back that just runs through people. But that's doing a big disservice to Zach Charbonnet for me. He's far more skillful, far more nifty with his feet and his hips than people will give him credit for. I'm not saying he's Shakira, but his hips can move and he can shift. Not quite Ken, but he can shift. And he can stop on a dime, and he can turn, and he can go, and he can burst. So I was really, really excited for Charbonnet. Gutted he didn't get in the end zone, but it is coming. It is coming. It's only going to be a matter of time. And yeah, I was just really impressed with Zach, and he looks like the bond that them two are growing with him and Ken. I think that's a really exciting 1-2 punch for the future that we're starting to develop there.
Yeah, it looks a really healthy kind of relationship between the two of them. When you look at the concept of taking a second round running back 2 years in a row, those will be guys coming out of college that are really hoping to go to a good spot on a winning team. But more so than that, they want to see a team that needs a running back to draft them. Well, if you look at Ken Walker coming into us last year, he was coming in behind Rashad Penny, who had finished the season red hot the year before. So he came into a situation where he was going to have to play backup and hope for a chance. As destiny had it, that chance came game 3, I think it was, and he never looked back. Charbonnet's come in, having to see a fit, young, top 10 running back in the league, offensive rookie of the year. Did he win an offensive rookie of the year? I feel
no, Garrett Wilson won it, but he should have won it.
He was runner-up. Yeah, yes, that's it. It was super close, I remember. And that was a weird, on a tangent here, but didn't he get more first place votes than Garrett Wilson? But Garrett Wilson, off the breakdown of the points from lower votes, had edged him out, but he actually had more. Yeah, ridiculous. I remember. I've just opened up a wound. But yeah, the point being that Charbonnet came into a situation where he knew he was going to be, at best, sharing reps very heavily with a senior running back in Ken Walker. And what's actually happened is a fantastic bond between them has sparked, and they seem to be each other's biggest cheerleader, which is a superb thing. And going on to the thing you said there about Charbonnet really showing that he was almost equally as shifty as Ken. I think actually they're both as shifty as each other, but they both have a different extra attribute which aids their game. If you think about Ken Walker, the thing that toasts people every game, and literally every game, is not how clean he is out of his jump cuts. It's the immediate acceleration out of them that leaves people for dead. It's that 0 to 60 out of a jump cut that is insanely difficult to adjust. By the time you've adjusted to the jump cut, he's gone. You're eating dust with Kenny Walker. Mm-hmm. With Charbonnet, he doesn't have that twitchy explosion of pace out of those lateral cuts. But what he does have is insanely good contact balance. Yeah. So if he doesn't get out of that jump cut quickly and he does get chipped or hit, or someone hasn't bound onto him, unfazed, he is still going. He is so there's a physicality to Charbonnet in there, which isn't there with Ken. But there is an explosive 0 to 60 speed with acceleration with Ken, which isn't there with Charbonnet. So they have some similarities, but some also vast differences as well. And I think it's a fantastic. I think it's a fantastic foundation for our offense to have that. And I said it last week to Pez. I'm starting to really feel now that lose a wide receiver, we've got JSN who can step up. Lose a running back, we've got Charbonnet, or Ken can pick up the snaps, or DJ Dallas can. I feel like throughout, we just talked about it on our offensive line as well.
Yeah.
I feel, and I don't want to encourage any injuries because we've had a season's worth already, but I feel should any more happen, we're really well equipped, seriously well equipped.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was one of the things that I was worried about, depth. It's always depth, it's the backbone of having a good team and having deep playoff runs and stuff like that. You've got to have depth and guys that next man, that sort of next man up mentality that the Seahawks always preach and Pete Carroll always preaches. And it looks like they've got that. They've got that next man up mentality in key positions. I want to give 2 quick mentions as well because I think they deserve it. Before we head off, Jake Bobo, first touchdown. What a catch, by the way.
Yeah, superb.
Unbelievable footwork as well, right on the pads. He can play, everyone. He can play. It's not just a preseason heartthrob. He can play, and is going to be on the 53-man for the rest of the season. He's going to be on the team for a long time. I think he's might not ever reach stardom or be a Doug Baldwin level of undrafted free agent success, or maybe even like a Jermaine Kearse kind of player, but he's going to be a contributor for this team for a long time. He'll
he'd be a fan favorite as well.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got a real underdog kind of story about him, and people are going to love him for a long time.
I think it's just something about the name, like Bobo. It's just a fun name. He's a fun guy, and the fans have just absolutely taken to him. And it was so lovely to see him get that touchdown. And like I say, if it was a wide open, busted coverage kind of touchdown and he got it, it would have still been lovely. But it's like, oh well, it was but he showed real ability. If that was a DK catch or a Lockett catch, or you insert X receiver in the NFL catcher, Garrett Wilson doing it, Devonta Smith doing it, you know what I mean? It'd still be being played on NFL Network and stuff like that. It was an awesome catch by Bobo. So I was over the moon for him, and that just reassured to me that yeah, he can play and he can step up when we need him to. And Cameron Young, one of your guys, Cameron Young, again, didn't see loads of him in terms of live action on the passing the eye test kind of thing, but he got a 70.2 PFF grade. I think he was our fifth highest graded.
Fifth highest, yeah.
On defense, at least. Mario Edwards got the top one. Jaron Reed, Boye Mafe, Julian Love, Cameron Young, Devin Witherspoon. So back-to-back weeks of Cam Young playing some really smart, decent football. Who's again just quietly going under the radar, quietly getting on with his business, developing, making plays when he needs to. Not getting to the quarterback like we always say about Cameron Young, and like you've always stressed since we've drafted him, that he struggles to get to the quarterback. But quite obviously, he's collapsing pockets. He's a disruptor. Yeah. He's doing the things right, and that's leaving Jaron Reed to get to the quarterback. It's leaving Boye Mafe to get to the quarterback. So it's quite obvious that he might not be flashing on screen. You might not be seeing him, in the highlights or in the sack party in the backfield, but he's the one creating these opportunities by the looks of it. Him and Mario Edwards, these kind of guys, these are the ones that are creating these opportunities for your Jaron Reeds, for your Boye Mafe to go and get the sexy sacks. Cameron Young is that kind of, he's not a sexy player, but he's one of those kind of players that are just crucial to your defensive line. So shout out Cameron Young as well. I like guys who just go about their business and just don't hear from them, don't talk any shit. They just go about their business and are good football players, and it looks like he's one of them. So when I saw that, I was a bit surprised, a bit taken aback, and just thought, what, that deserves a mention again. Well done, Cameron.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you might be able to find the clip from when we were talking about him.
Amount of snaps he plays, he's playing full games as a nose. So insane motor. You could play him in a 4 front, you could play him in a 3 front as a nose, and he's gonna enable other people to play a lot better. So I was really big on him, and I said during the D-line pod, I think if we don't get a nose high up like Matthew Smith or Jalen Carter or that guy to be an X factor in the middle, I think we'll look to someone like that. And we did get him in on interviews as well.
When we drafted him, but I think I said he's got a real knack of beating his man on the line, but he hasn't got that closing speed, and he's not great in pursuit of a quarterback. But the fact that he collapses the pocket allows everyone else to feast, and we're starting to see that. We're starting to see the interior of the defensive line beating interior offensive lines fairly regularly. So, I had spotted that he'd had a really good PFF grade, and I'm glad you brought him up. I think, like you say, another one where should Jaron Reed miss a game and we'd be expecting him to step up. We've seen him in flashes. We've seen him in limited sort of snap scenarios. I'd now feel more confident, with that work. If that workload was to double, I'd back him. I'd back him to have a good game. So we're going to finish this off with a question. I thought of a funny question today. I thought I'm going to ask that tonight. Ideally, Pez would have been here too, because he'd have loved this question, right? So this is a very hypothetical question, so bear with me.
Okay.
And don't ask me how this scenario comes about, but for argument's sake, it is happening, okay? So you somehow get frozen, right? You've been frozen alive, right? Someone defrosts you in 10 years' time. They happen to defrost you and save your life, right? You've survived the freezing, right? And you've been woken up on Super Bowl Sunday 10 years' time from now, okay? So the first question is, what year is it? What day is it? And they say, you work out it's 10 years on. It's a Sunday. It's Super Bowl Sunday. The Seahawks are playing. Only one of our rookie class has made it 10 years deep into their career, right? Which one do you want that one player to be? Who has made it 10 years deep from this year's rookie class and is playing in a Super Bowl on the day you've been defrosted?
Who I want or who I think?
No, well, give me who you think is most likely to have a 10-year stint in this current Seahawks team from our rookie class, and who would you most want it to be?
I think it'll be Devin Witherspoon. I would want. See, I'd love JSN, but I just love Jake Bobo as well. So I don't know. I just love for the fact that Jake Bobo could be still here in 10 years' time doing stuff. So you know what,
having that Baldwin career, yeah.
Jake Bobo, fuck it.
Nice, I like it. Good answers. I thought I'd surprise you with a fun question too.
I was like, where did you start it? Right, you've been frozen. I'm like, what the camera on me?
Yeah, no, yeah. I just thought, like, imagine being frozen and being defrosted, and just 10 years have passed. What does that Seahawks team look like? And I thought, do you know what? From a rookie standpoint, on our rookie podcast, which one would you most want to be there? And I think you've come at that from an interesting angle, because I think if Devin Witherspoon has a 10-year career, we've been successful, and also with Jake Bobo still there, we've all had fun watching. So
yeah. I'm just thinking age-wise as well. Witherspoon's young. He's obviously ridiculously talented. Some of the other guys we picked up a little bit older in their careers coming out of college. And then I say that, to be fair, Bobo is 25 already, so 35, yeah, maybe not realistic then, actually. But who would you pick then?
If there's a player in this rookie class that I'd want to have a 10-year career, the one I most want to see have a 10-year career is probably Derek Hall. I think if Derek Hall makes it 10 years... he's potentially a 100-sack career guy.
Wow.
If he makes it with the physical traits he's got, the frame he's got, with his power and his speed, if he makes it in the NFL, he will be a force. And if he gets that longevity in that career, like you've seen with, TJ Watt, JJ Watt, with Von Miller, with the lad we had as well from the Bengals, it's escaping me. Carlos Dunlap, another player, 80, 90 sacks in a career. He can be one of those. He can be one of those players. So I think that's the one I'd want to have the 10-year career with us. I think that would just be a lot of fun.
Great story as well.
Yeah, cool, really cool story, and it would really round that off, wouldn't it? If he had that big, illustrious NFL career. The one that I think is most likely from this. Probably someone like Cameron Young, actually. Could see mostly because of the age profile thing. And a 34, 35-year-old nose tackle, still big, still heavy, still immovable. I could see him being 35, still not able to hit the quarterback, but still being a handful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we're seeing it now with Jaron Reed. He looks as good as when we drafted him. In fact, he looks far better than when we drafted him. And you could look at his age profile and say he's at the end of his career. But in reality, he's looking as good as ever. So I think logically, a lineman of some sort. So maybe an Oluwatimi, but maybe also possibly Bradford. A guy like that. But fun way to end.
Fun way to end. I can't wait for your question next week. Your weekly questions.
Maybe the Mitch left field rookie question comes up there. Sure beats positive per se. Anyway, right, and we're going to end it there. So I'm going to go with the Go Hawks.
Yo Hawks.
Yo Hawks, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.